Hey, I'm Tony.
And I'm Nick.
And we're the Sicilian brothers, and this is our money series, and we're going to talk a little bit more about hard money and the realities versus expectations, I think from both ends of the spectrum, whether you're the borrower or the lender, and what are some of the things you got to think about.
Yeah. So one of the big things always you can get into a hard money loan or real estate with no money out of pocket. You know?
Yeah, I hear that in my career constantly. People say, well, I want to buy this house, I want to flip it. All right, how much money do you have? And it's usually
not enough.
That's a very politically correct way to say it. Not enough. It's not enough. So what is enough?
Good standard rule of thumb is 20%, right? So
I was just going to say that.
Closing costs plus 20%.
I didn't think you were going to know that number.
Yeah, thanks. I'm smart. I'm a smart guy.
All right, so 20%.
Yeah.
So if you're buying
closing costs plus 20%. So if there are any closing costs.
All right,
right?
I would have said 20% all in, but that's all right.
Yep. There are some deals where that's not enough, you know. So the whole goal is to get through closing. Okay, with a hard money loan, the goal is to get through closing, whatever that might be. You might be zero out of pocket, and then get deep enough into your rehab to start and fund that initial draw, right?
So let's back up. So you're buying a $100,000 house.
Yep.
So you expect me to have $20,000.
That's a good
rule of thumb,
yep,
right?
It's a good
Okay.
rule of thumb.
So you expect me to have $20,000. What if I only have $5,000?
You're not going to get deep into that rehab. If you're doing, let's say you bought it for 100, and you're doing.
I feel like you really want to say that you shouldn't be buying that house.
Yeah, I mean that's not my judgment call, but you shouldn't probably be buying that house.
What's the danger if I only have $5,000?
So that's where I was going, right? So if your rehab,
but I wanted to ask you the question.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
If your rehab is, let's say, $25,000, and you only have $5,000, right? You're not going to get deep enough into that or even $50,000 rehab. You're not going to be able to get deep enough into that to start the draw process, or you're going to be calling out a draw every week.
What's the problem with me getting a draw every week?
You're racking up fees. So
what fees?
So there's a draw request fee, right? So. And every lender's different, but on average, let's just say it's $150. That's going to cover the inspection, that inspector's time, and the wire fee.
Hold up. So I'm buying a house. I only have $5,000. I have a $50,000 rehab, and I'm going to flip this house and make a ton of money, but I have to pay a fee every time you give me money?
Yeah, so typically you want to get as deep as possible into it. Now, you might be doing it in quarters, halves, whatever. There are some people that fund the full rehab out of pocket, and then at the very end they pay themselves back, right? So you're only paying one draw fee.
So
it's time. You don't want to slow your own process down.
So in short, you are saying that you should have cash to actually buy a house.
No, you don't need enough liquidity to purchase the house outright.
No, but you should have some amount of money.
Yes.
To do your first flip.
Yes, you should have some form of reserves.
All right, so the idea that I can buy a house with no money out of pocket is pretty much not true.
Yes, using a hard money loan, because there are other ways and other techniques,
No, I disagree with that.
Okay, that's fine. We'll get into another.
No, you should just agree with me on that.
Okay, I agree with you, Tony.
Yeah,
You are God.
You can't buy a house and flip it without any money.
Yes, you want me to write the confirmation
So you
down?
have to have money to flip the house.
Yes, I just said it 5 times.
So 9 out of 10 times you're going to have money out of pocket when you close.
Closing costs.
Plus you have to have money to start the remodel.
Yep.
And then chances are you're not going to buy and sell, or buy, fix, and sell the house, or buy, fix, and refinance the house in a 30-day period. So you're going to have to start making payments.
Holding costs. That's another thing that we never even discussed. Holding costs, whether or not it's gas, electric, your interest-only payments.
So utilities.
And mowing the lawn.
Everything.
Everything.
And your interest, right? So you have utilities, your interest, and then the unknowns, right? So like you said, the water bill, which is a utility, but the lawn, right? Insurance,
taxes, anything that might come up on the house, right?
So you would have to ideally understand that you're going to start somewhere. And if I want to start with no money, maybe buying and fixing and flipping isn't where I should start.
Yep.
Right? What are some of the expectations from the lender's side?
Do you mean as a lender, what are our expectations?
Yeah, right. What is it that, because some people call us and they say, hey, I want to buy a house, and And they say some things to us that are slightly alarming, right? So if I'm out there and I'm saying to Bob, let's just say, hey, Bob, you're going to call us for money, maybe don't say these things, right? So I think some of the things that we hear is, hey, I want to buy a house and refinance, and then I want to live in it. Right, that's a red flag, right? So there's some expectations in there from a lender, right? These are business loans, so that's one thing. So that's what I'm getting at, right? So what are some of the tips that we can give people?
So as a lender, I want to make sure that you have a good plan, right? So like we discussed, we're going to have agreed upon rehab. I want to make sure you have a good plan. You're not just going to go in there thinking that you're going to do $10,000 worth of work and increase that value tenfold, right? I want to make sure that you have the knowledge.
So the expectation is that they're calling us and they're going to give us that list of repairs, and we want them, regardless of the dollar amount, because I noticed you said $10,000, but really it's not the dollar amount, it's the amount of work, right?
Yes. So
a
realistic rehab.
Okay, so a realistic rehab to get a realistic return.
Yes.
Right? So, all right, so Bob calls us and says, hey, I'm going to fix and flip this house, and I'm going to do X, Y, and Z to it, and it's going to be worth exponentially more. What if he says, I've never done this before?
That's not a problem. I mean, a lot of lenders work with first-timers. Everybody's got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
But that's where it comes down to make sure they have a good game plan.
Okay.
Make sure they have a good team. They're not going to go and hire just a painter off the street, right?
But we don't go that deep into it, right?
We don't go that deep, but that comes down with that conversation, right? You might not have done this before, but have you been involved in construction at all? Have you been involved?
Like, are they hiring, if you're a first timer, ideally they would have some sort of GC,
yes, a
right?
qualified GC.
So, or they know someone in the trade, right? Like they're someone that's related to them, does this or has done this, or maybe they have a joint venture, like a JV relationship with someone, right? Yep. So just the fact that they're a first timer isn't a red flag. It's some of the qualifying questions that could cause a red flag.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and so the exit strategy, right? If you're going to tell me you're going to buy and hold something and you're going to cash flow it, yada yada yada, but if the property doesn't make sense for that buy and hold, taxes are through the roof in that neighborhood. There's a high HOA, right? Something. So you might know that they can't get out of it. You brought
up a good point. So let's just say we talked a little bit about fix and flips, but on a buy and hold, let's just say, Bob, you call in and you're gonna do a buy and hold. So you're gonna buy a house, you're gonna fix it up, and then you're gonna rent it. What if Bob doesn't have good enough credit? Well, how would we know that Bob doesn't have good enough credit, right? So if Bob calls in and says, oh, I want to start building my rental portfolio, and you ask Bob, well, have you talked to lenders to get financing on the backside, right?
So a lot of times with our buy and holds, you want to make sure that they're pre-qualified for their exit strategy, right? They've gone to Bank of America or a financial institution. They have it secured
for the backside.
For the backside, right? So you know, and that's why traditionally some lenders go higher on that buy and hold LTV that they'll do. They'll go from 70 to 75 because they know that there's an exit strategy.
Yeah. So when they call us, that's one of the things we're going to ask them. Have you spoken to that lender on the backside, or are they going to use us for that refinance, right? Because we do that. So yeah, all right. So you're going to buy and hold, and you're not sure whether or not you qualify. So you would definitely want to know that you can get financing on your backside, right? You mentioned something about cash flow. Well, how do you know if it's going to cash flow?
So, like I said, you can look for indicators that are going to be affecting cash flow. So taxes, insurance. Some properties are in flood zones and insurance is through the roof. Same thing with an HOA. If you buy a property inside an HOA, that HOA might not allow rentals.
So just the numbers there, right? So the HOA dues would affect your cash flow, so on and so forth. So in addition to the average fix and flipper guy, when we get a buy and hold person, we're also validating some of that backside financing. Hey, does this property itself make sense for cash flow, liquidity reasons later, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a bunch of validation that goes in. So we got on the initial fix and flip person or that buy and hold person, there's a lot of qualifying questions that come into play with both of those, right? Yep. Do you think there's anything else that would help someone when they're calling us for either strategy, whether it's they have little to no money, or is there a way that we can get someone off the ground or help someone build their portfolio?
So just doing homework up front, right? If I've had buyers call me before and they're like, I want to buy 123 Main Street. I've been reading a lot about it, and I want to turn into a short-term rental, right?
Okay.
Airbnb, let's just say. I've been reading about it, and this is what I want to do. Well, maybe that might not be the best thing right out of the gate, right? Do something, do a small rehab, do a small flip, break your teeth on that, and
Start
hone your
somewhere.
edge, right? Yeah. Start somewhere easy. Start somewhere simple. Don't go high in that tier level of skill. That might take more.
Yeah, or
knowledge,
they're. I think we talked about this. That good, fast, cheap.
Oh, yeah.
Or what?
Yep.
Right? What's the three?
So good, fast, cheap is for contractors, but
no, it's relative. It's
are you
relative.
talking about my time?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. So if you have that triangle
so if you have time, money, or experience, right? You typically you don't have
all three, you have
right?
two.
So you get to a point where you have money and you have plenty of experience, but guess what? You don't have a lot of time anymore because you're working 10 different jobs.
Right.
But starting out, you want to make sure if you don't have experience, well, you got all the time in the world, and you should start building a little bit of money. Maybe you trade off in JV somebody that has that experience.
Right. So you can't have all three in that triangle. So understand that your time and money and experience, was that the third one?
Yeah. So what you're going to trade off for.
Right. So you might have to bring in a partner or something like that, right?
Yep.
So
starting out at least.
So if you got money and no credit, you might need a credit partner. If you have credit and no money, you might need a money partner. And if you have no time or money, right, you have to weigh your
starting
options.
Starting out, you should have time, right? You don't do this as a...
No, you don't know that.
Yeah, well, I'm saying you should.
Yeah, but...
Hopefully,
but,
right? So you don't have time and you don't have experience, but all you have is cash, or you're going to have to find somebody that can fill those other two roles.
Yeah, I just said that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. All right, so that was our little bit of the expectations and the realities of buying and holding or fixing and flipping. We're the Sicilian Brothers. Stay tuned and... like, subscribe, share, and
comment below if you got any questions. Let us know. We'd love to answer them.